Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and the chair and my co-panelists. Since the time is short, and I don't want to be built out, so what I decided to do, I just highlight on the basic theme of the presentation. I'm neither speaking on behalf of CSCs. It's a generic approach, and what I normally do in these conferences that go to the straight basics of the subject, what we are, what at stage, what we were, where we were, and where we like to be in the future. So let's begin the next 7 minutes in pursuit of what Telecenter was and how we are going to look at it down the line. And obviously, the references to CSCs and the gigantic effort that India has taken, especially one of the pioneers in the form of Ashish Sanyal and a lot of other colleagues which we have been working together for a long time, and I happen to be one of them. We started the ball rolling out, but because of the mess management of the program, it crashed out. So I will not talk about STMF too much. In references, we will talk about it, the huge prospects that's emerging around Africa, and where Indian technicians, the e-governance initiative, the experts have a field day coming in this head. We are talking about now mobile telecenter for financial inclusion, because why I will clarify to that and what are the current do's and what we are going to come out with in possible roadmap, where the left hand and the right hand, instead of working in silos, that it has to be hand-holding operations that will pave the way down the line. The structure, doing good to structured resource. You know, it has to be an NGO, whether it's not, and then we have gone down the beaten track and come out with a hugely structured revenue-based model, which we are following across India. After the 5 years' time, whether it's paying to the desired extent or to the extent it has gone annulled, it is not today. We are not going to decide for neither go for the whys and hows. But we'll definitely talk about where could have been made a little bit more faster and all that, you know. This is basically the facts of the matter, that how we have seen the ICT have been doing and all that. The approach is generic. Unless we attack from the center where we today, then our roadmap will be again we have to go to a crossroad and then tend to come back and then again redo. And so I want to avoid that and let me be very specific about and target oriented. This is what is today's world. When the mid-center, when the mid-term appraisal was going to happen, the Millennium Development Goal, this was the pitch poking Dr. Ture. And I happen to have a very close, I'm not regularly visiting Geneva and ITU, but I made some presentations and we are working in Africa. So after that, I called him up and said that, do you feel it's feasible in the LDCs, or, India has a different plan altogether, and that has to be the target. That was his very specific point of view. We can't have telecenter of yesterdays. With the advent, well, now even 3G and the PDAs are coming, the price barrier is falling to an extent where it's possible to deliver a huge amount of services, embedded, pre-embedded, as well as structured program management to the have-nots. What we are doing today is basically yesteryears. I basically will implore to look forward and how we integrate, and that will be one of the presentations that I'm doing. Why the shift in focus? I'm just not reading it out. You can have a presentation from somebody, you know. These are the basic point. We have to take on that, because if you bring in a whole lot of practices, why China has 477 million internet users today vis-a-vis 100 million, not so effective again in India today, which is these are the two powerhouses in India. That needs for a real bit of introspection and the differentiation out. Whereas approach-wise, the world acknowledges, and we know that we have the best of the part. How we have not, Abhishek was told you something, probably we'll take on some other day, and I happen to be in one of the stations where introspection was going on, and it's going to happen down the line. This mobile penetration, the whole idea is to have a fusion. If we have, instead of having broadband today, where India has already taken up a plan of going 250,000 and structured management program, and already they're moving ahead on all that. This voluntarization to a structured management is one of the key areas where we are going to structure it out. And these are the points that, you know, voice has definitely role to play while servicing data orientation. These are the early trends, how it happened. I'm just going to configure out that what it happened in UK also. If you look at the cross section of that, the focal point of my discussion will come to that, where PC financing provided for government to retailer. And one thing you remember, the ICT initiative that we started, Brazil and one of the pioneering nations started way back in 1999. The same time, the lacuna in India today, while we are talking about the information superhighway and doing everything possible, much later, after 6-7 years, we started talking about financial superhighway. So the left-hand, right-hand scenario, which they have been able to augment, we have failed to do that, and now we are taking care, and probably at a certain point of time, 2010 to 15 onwards, the convergence is going to happen down the line. The ICT growth, these are for your references only, I'm not going to elaborate on that, and how it at a certain point of time is coming out a convergence, and broadband to GDP. That's also an important factor, because these are the points in a structured management which we have taken care of, except that we are not coming with numbers. Because what are all these initiatives for? While the agents and the CSC owners and all other people needs to be sustainable, whether the community is getting empowered and benchmark, I'm not saying that they are not, I'm saying they are. But every time that benchmark has to be, because ICT readiness takes care of the community also, and unless they are empowered to that extent, this is not going to pay, and the fusion and all that, the visibility factor is not going to emerge to that extent. And access charges, all that, GDP contributor. And this is one point, these advantages of e-commerce, e-education, e-governance, e-health, everybody has spoken about that. So let's now the enablers. The journey, innovation, access price, content, localization, and increase. The localization part I'm going to highlight and see one more slides here. You can refer to the slide later on, because whenever we talk about in different forums, we try to bring in the whole world at a place so that we continuously monitor a local development, whether in Rwanda or in Nairobi or in India. We tend to know where we stand today, where we are yesterday. This is the various initiatives that we have taken over, the applications impact. This is the point that you need to address. Nowhere the ICT readiness and spread has happened without localization of content. Even China today, look at the content size of the localization factor. And Google has a run today. Whether it shuts down or not, really Chinese people are not too much that on extent, except those who are looking forward to chat with USA or maybe probably and all that. This is a key factor of ICT enablers and all, and movement onwards. Impact perspective, I'm skipping that because something on. We know about that. Avishek has told that this is going to happen and all that. The mesh structure, which is now almost 6 layers and all that, we know that, basically, we need to incorporate the mobile telecentres and mobile connectivity to that. Now, this is the broadband as a catalyst when you're talking about. At the end of that, the mobile, integration and integration comes into play. The NMesh network, we know about that, which is going further down the line, is going to happen further down the line also. We have mentioned here, because Ranabi happens to be for UID, so I have not spoken about the EID, the likely mesh, or the fear that is getting generated, which is going to contribute to a certain extent or not. This is the process that we used to undertake at a certain point of time, that it's likely going to happen, and a lot of water has gone down in between. Now, education, services, etc., I have spoken about. This is the key to the whole story. Wherever a telecenter needs to succeed, this entire NMesh network has to be in place. My principal submission, the telecentres need to be transaction-based. And what I feel, imparting education and financial services and transaction-based services cannot go hand in hand, because looking at this scenario, the size and the availability of the talent, multitasking even in a big organization where the same man is very difficult. So we need to segregate. If you have financial services and transaction-based services, even e-learning is a transaction-based services, you need to segregate back and forth, which is in the front office, which is in the back office. Because to tell you, to buy a e-ticket, the entire transaction is dependent on so many handshaking that even sitting at 1 Mbps line of functions, pretty often we get either my money is gone or the ticket is not generated, and we need to redo the entire process. And for small time, suppose 10 tickets go because of the shutdown, then probably there's money that is in the system which is to be reworded. It takes a little bit of time, so it takes a little bit of care about that. The whole ecosystem, why schools, the carrier agents, the go-downs, the transporters, everything is there. That is the key to that, and whoever has been able to structure it out, this is the fashion. You have ITC, Chopal, you have transportation, If I talk about the transportation, everything is going hunky-dory. But going a reverse direction from the city to it takes about 125 rupees a kg almost. If you talk about a ton of going to from Calcutta to Bombay or Delhi to Bombay at an average rate of 21 to 21,000 per ton today. So the basic cost analysis is very, very seriously needs to be done when transportation management also in place. We're skipping a CMFI because what I'd like to tell you that the question answer that structural changes has to be made continuously. What we discussed 5 years back is redundant today, and new features and new possibilities emerging. And unless we have, wherever, I give 2-3 references only, wherever we are not being able to structure it out to the desired extent. Somebody mentioned, Abhishek mentioned M-Pesa. The amount of the euphoria structuring and the amount of tangible benefit is accruing to the national economy in Kenya. The amount of tangible benefits accruing to the beneficiaries, the amount of tangible benefit is accruing to the intermediaries, the agents. I spoke to about roughly 500 agents staying in 5 days. Out of a small economy, there are 14,000 agents, and we happen to incorporate best of the agent trainers and all that out of the M-Pesa system, now from M-Pesa to M-Kesho. But so far as e-governance, ICT for readiness, it's pretty poor. I was in Indonesia. It's part of the same presentation I've incorporated, madam. They are second in the Facebook, clogging, and the ICT readiness, with mobile chat and all that. And there was a serious debate. I sparked a little bit of interest. I mean, do you think that you are ICT ready? Just being in the Facebook and all that? What sort of transaction, what sort of e-learning, what sort of other value-based services and all that? It has a correlation. ICT readiness has a correlation to financial inclusion, financial deepening. And unless you empower all of it together, we are going to be bound and hamstringed by some of the other phases. And there are many issues to that because, as I said earlier, if you have information superhighway, unless you have financial superhighway and places in state. I refer to that. 1999, Brazil had that. M-Pesa has come out with a classic non-legacy system. It's not going to happen anywhere. I have in my team who is doing, we have done fundamentally the main issues in Cambodia. The same doing in M-Pesa. Yesterday I had a serious debate in LinkedIn. 15 people were together. I said, look at the performances of the other non-performing nations compared to our system. We are one of the powerhouses today. Because of legacy system and moving on from a legacy to a restructuring one is taking a little bit of time. But when it explodes, it's going to happen, but at a particular point of time, because of the non-structured to structured, it's taking a bit of time, but we need to be very patient while structuring out and being inside. We can't do everything at the same time, so we need to come out with certain specific directions where telecenter need to focus depending on the visibility. Scalability is important. What size do Africa has? Can we have the same program like have we in India? It's not possible. Has Brazil taken the same route? We have taken some. The fusion of the postal union has been one of the key factors. And not only today we see Indian postal union is coming forward to do that. So these are my humble submissions that it is one of the telecenters are going to be one of the key areas in the developing nations. The best in the LDCs, in the developing countries like Brazil, China, even in Russia as well as India and Bangladesh is taking, giant steps towards that. It has to be the whole transformational change by change way of life, how people behave, communicate, deal through the telecenters, because although we are having a lot of mobile, we are still not ready in the ICT in so many factors. Thank you very much.